Hey everyone, and a massive welcome back. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today for the 17th explainer in our ongoing research methodology series. Today's explainer is officially titled How to Conduct a Review of Literature. Look, if you have ever sat down, stared at a completely blank screen, surrounded by a terrifying mountain of downloaded PDFs, and wondered how on earth you're supposed to piece them all together, well, take a deep breath because you are in exactly the right place. We are going to break down this entirely essential academic skill step by step. By the time we're done, it's not just going to be manageable, it's going to be a deeply rewarding process. So let's get into it. Okay, let's quickly outline our architect's blueprint for today. We'll be moving through 5 key stages. First, defining and exploring types. Second, searching and evaluating sources. Third, organizing and synthesizing literature. Fourth, writing and common mistakes. And finally, number 5, our conclusion and next steps. I want to kick things off with a fantastic thought from Cresswell and Cresswell. They state that a literature review allows researchers to justify the importance of their study and show how it contributes to existing knowledge. Honestly, this is the perfect mindset shift. Too often, we kind of treat this process like a mechanical high school book report, right? We think it's just about listing, author A said this, followed by author B said that, and then we just call it a day. It is absolutely not that. A literature review is the actual intellectual foundation of any new research. It's you stepping into a vibrant, ongoing scholarly conversation, confidently pulling up a chair alongside the experts, and proving that your brand new research actually needs to happen. So let's jump straight into section 1, defining and exploring types. Fundamentally, a literature review is a systematic, critical, and organized examination of existing knowledge related to a particular problem. I really want to emphasize those 3 words: systematic, critical, and organized. You see, no research is ever conducted in total isolation. Every single research problem out there emerges from earlier ideas, past debates, and previous limitations. Your job isn't simply to summarize a bunch of journals. Your job is to identify what is already known, brutally evaluate the quality of those existing studies, and discover the hidden gaps in our current understanding. It takes all this scattered, chaotic information and builds it into a rock-solid, cohesive foundation. Now, not all literature reviews are built exactly the same way. The type you end up choosing really depends on the exact nature of your research. A traditional or narrative review gives you a broad discussion and is incredibly common in master's theses. It provides a really great overarching view of a topic. But if you need something to actively reduce bias through strict, transparent procedures, you'd use a systematic review, which is extremely popular in the health sciences. Then you have a meta-analysis, which goes a step further and actually statistically combines findings from multiple quantitative studies to find an overall effect. Think of it as crunching all the numbers together. A scoping review maps out the range of literature on very broad, complex, or maybe rapidly emerging topics. And finally, an integrative review combines both empirical data and theoretical literature to give a highly comprehensive understanding of a subject. But listen, regardless of the specific method you choose from this list, they all fundamentally require crystal clarity, sharp critical analysis, and meticulous documentation. All right, moving right along to section 2, searching and evaluating sources. Before you type a single word into a database search bar, you have to narrow your focus. I cannot stress this enough. This is a vital first step. If you search for something as broad as education, you're going to be completely overwhelmed by millions upon millions of hits. You will literally drown in information. But if you refine that down to something like the effective digital learning tools on academic achievement among rural secondary school students, you transform a vague, cloudy interest into a focused, highly researchable topic. By identifying specific variables, in this case, digital learning tools and academic achievement, and pinning down a specific population and setting, rural secondary school students, you give your search real direction and purpose. Narrowing your topic is absolutely crucial for your sanity. Once your topic is sharply defined, you actually begin the search process. First, you choose the right databases. Google Scholar, JSTOR, and PubMed are fantastic starting points. But definitely don't forget to leverage your university library's institutional subscriptions to get past those super annoying paywalls. Second, you need to use specific keywords and combinations. And third, pay attention because this is a pro tip from top scholars. You must track citations both backward and forward. Backward searching means looking at the reference list of a truly great article you just found. It helps you discover the older, foundational, grandfather studies of your topic. Forward searching uses citation databases to see who has cited that older article recently. This helps you track the evolution of an idea right up to the present day. A strong review doesn't rely on just a few lucky keyword searches. It meticulously traces the lineage of ideas backward and forward through time. Now, what's really interesting here is how tiny, simple words can act as incredibly powerful tools to refine those database searches. We call these Boolean operators, and they are genuinely your best friends when navigating vast archives. If you search online learning and student achievement, you're telling the database you only want articles that specifically mention both concepts together. That narrows your search beautifully and cuts out all the noise. If you use OR, like online learning or e-learning, you instantly broaden your search to catch variations in terminology, ensuring you don't miss a great paper just because they use a slightly different synonym. And if you keep getting completely irrelevant results, say you're searching for Apple the fruit but keep getting Apple the tech company, you can use not to exclude specific terms. Master these 3 little words and you will literally save yourself hours of frustration. Here's a hard truth. Just because you found a source doesn't mean it deserves a place in your review. You must critically evaluate every single selected source. Does it actually relate directly to your research question? Is the author credible and respected in their field? Are their research methods actually sound? And are their conclusions genuinely supported by the evidence they presented? You have to establish strict inclusion and exclusion criteria before you start reading deeply. For example, you might decide you only want peer-reviewed journal articles published within the last 10 years. Whatever your criteria, you have to actively and critically judge the value and reliability of these studies, rather than just uncritically accepting everything that manages to get published. Quality over quantity, always. Let's transition to Section 3, Organizing and Synthesizing Literature. This is where the magic really starts to happen. I highly recommend using a literature matrix. This is the ultimate architectural tool for organizing your notes, and frankly, it's a real game changer. Instead of casually reading a paper and then forgetting what you read 2 days later, you actively extract the vital information into a spreadsheet. For instance, you'd note that a 2021 study by Smith had an objective of measuring motivation, their method was a survey, and their key finding was that immediate feedback helps. You'd also explicitly track that its relevance to your own work is high. When you have 30 of these rows instead of 30 dense, completely unorganized PDFs, you can suddenly scan down the methods column and instantly realize, wow, 20 of these past studies used surveys, but literally none used in-depth qualitative interviews. Boom, you've just found a potential methodological gap. Creating a matrix allows you to easily compare studies side by side and spot patterns you would absolutely miss otherwise. Once you have your notes locked down in your matrix, you have to decide how you're actually going to structure your writing. You could organize chronologically to show how an idea historically developed over decades. You could organize methodologically, completely separating the qualitative studies from the quantitative ones. You could group them theoretically, but I really want to highlight that second point, thematic. Grouping studies by major concepts, variables, or issues is almost always the most effective structure for academic research papers. Why? Because organizing thematically prevents your review from reading like a boring, disconnected series of summaries. Instead, it turns your writing into a compelling, analytical narrative about the major debates in your field. And that leads directly to the most important concept in this entire explainer. Actually, scratch that. This isn't just an important concept, it is the absolute beating heart of a good review. The difference between summary and synthesis. Summary is simply describing what one single author said in isolation. Synthesis, however, is explaining the relationships, the trends, and the debates among several sources. If 3 different authors studied student motivation, please, I'm begging you, don't write 3 separate paragraphs summarizing each of them. Synthesize them. You might write something like, while authors A and B argue that intrinsic motivation is the primary driver of student success, author C's recent study suggests that extrinsic factors are actually more impactful in the first year. Do you see the difference there? You were putting the authors in a room together and making them talk to each other. Synthesis combines existing ideas to create entirely new layers of understanding. When you successfully synthesize the literature, something pretty incredible happens. You naturally reveal the research gap. It just emerges from the text. A gap is an area that simply hasn't been adequately studied, remains totally unclear, or is absolutely full of contradictory findings. Maybe everyone studied online learning in urban schools, but you realize no one has looked at rural schools yet. That's a gap. Identifying this gap is the primary goal of your entire review process, because this gap is exactly what justifies the vital need for your brand new study. You are proving that a piece of the giant puzzle is missing, and you are stepping up to find it. Which brings us to the construction phase. Section 4, Writing and Common Mistakes. As you finally begin drafting your document, your tone and academic integrity are literally everything. You must absolutely avoid throwing in unsupported personal opinions. Let the evidence do all the talking. You want to use scholarly transitions like similarly, in contrast, or however, to effortlessly guide the reader through the debates. Use strong, active verbs like suggests, indicates, or argues to give your writing some real momentum. And above all else, ensure perfectly accurate in-text citations, strictly adhering to standards like APA, MLA, or Chicago. Proper citation is a non-negotiable basic requirement of scholarly integrity. It respectfully acknowledges the brilliant scholars who came before you, and for sure it protects you entirely from any hint of plagiarism. Let's do a rapid-fire check of common mistakes to avoid. Number 1, writing an annotated bibliography where you just summarize one source after another without any synthesis. We already know not to do that, right? Number 2, including too many irrelevant sources just to artificially pad your reference list and make it look longer. Stay ruthlessly focused. Number 3, relying on outdated or non-scholarly sources when recent, high-quality, peer-reviewed data is readily available. And finally, the big one, focusing only on studies that happen to support your own initial assumptions. That creates confirmation bias, and it's a huge trap. A truly balanced academic review must consider diverse perspectives and bravely explain contradictory evidence when it appears. Let's move to our final wrap-up. Section 5, Conclusion and Next Steps. To completely summarize our journey today, take a moment to consider the incredible value a literature review actually brings to your work. It takes a vague, perhaps clumsy research problem and refines it into a laser-focused inquiry. It develops the robust theoretical foundations you need to stand on with confidence. It actually helps you select the most appropriate research methods by clearly showing you what worked well and what completely failed for past researchers tackling similar problems. And finally, it boldly justifies the need for your specific study. A well-written review ultimately proves to the academic community that you deeply understand the landscape of your field and that you are fully ready to contribute something highly meaningful to it. So, after exploring how to expertly search, organize, synthesize, and write, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. What gap will your research fill? The scholarly conversation is ongoing right now. The evidence is out there waiting to be synthesized, and there is a very specific space that only your unique perspective and hard work can complete. It's time to start reading, start building that matrix, and go find your gap. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this explainer helpful in mapping out your own literature review, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support absolutely fuels this research methodology series and helps us bring more complex academic topics directly to you in a clear, focused, and approachable way. Until next time, happy researching, and I will see you in the next explainer.